I think it's fair to say that the writers of the DC animated universe held the titans of industry in low regard. Think how many Batman villains came into being as a result of the actions of a heartless CEO or industrialist. Mr. Freeze, the Riddler, Clayface. That's just a few of them. Likewise, the biggest bad guy in Superman the Animated Series was Lex Luthor, the ultra-capitalist. As well as being an actual villain, he was responsible for the creation of Metallo, Bizarro, Luminous, and several other of Superman's foes. Even in the time of Batman Beyond, the main bad guy from the first season of the show was Derek Powers, the man who bought out Wayne Enterprises from under Bruce Wayne and would go on to become the radioactive monstrosity Blight, a man who was literal poison by his own admission. You don't really see very many left-leaning villains, likely because of the politics of the writers, maybe Poison Ivy and Ra's al Ghul because of their environmentalism, but even then I feel like that's a bit of a stretch. However, there was one villain in the world of Batman Beyond that some point to as a left-wing supervillain, and that's Mad Stan, a self-described anarchist who wants to save the world by blowing up society. Now, the problem with that assessment is that anarchism doesn't really fit within the established boundaries of the Western political system. It's definitely not right-wing, but it's not really left-wing either. Now, I'm about to provide a very brief political segment here. Feel free to skip this chapter if hearing words like equality and fairness sound like radical communism to you. Just remember, US viewers, your political spectrum is heavily skewed to the right compared to most European countries. And if you couldn't tell from my voice, I am European. Okay, with that disclaimer out of the way, anarchism is often labelled as a far left ideology, but I don't think it really fits. One of the core tenets of left-leaning politics is the notion of changing the system to elevate disenfranchised people. The right, meanwhile, is quite happy with the current systems we have in place and wants to maintain them. Some populist movements even want to revert back to older forms of the system and reinstate the old, often discriminatory, way of doing things. That is a very broad generalisation. Remember, this is a 10-minute video about a Batman supervillain, not a lecture on the merits of either worldview. But the position of the left is that society isn't perfect and the current system is flawed, and we need to make changes to make society more fair. Anarchism, meanwhile, rejects the very idea of there being a system at all. No government, no rulers, no institutions. They see the constant switching between left-leaning and right-leaning governments as a waste of time. Each switch sees the subsequent governments undoing the work of the last. Better to just scrap governments entirely and let people get on with their lives, they argue. I think it's naive to assume that without a system in place we won't descend into chaos. It's already hard enough to get the bin men to come and empty the bins on a weekly basis. What would happen if there was no system compelling them to do it? I'm being facetious, but hopefully you understand the point I'm making. Anarchism feels more like a libertarian ideology than anything else on the left, but that's a huge topic of discussion and is not the point of this video. We're here to talk about Mr. Stanley Lebowski, aka Mad Stan. Like most villains seen in Batman Beyond, Mad Stan is an entirely new creation made specifically for the show. He's not a significant villain by any means, but he's charismatic enough that he won himself some fans. Note that he came in second place in my recent Batman Beyond villain poll. Mad Stan is an unashamed anarchist. He doesn't believe that there should be a government. He hates bureaucracy. Stan thinks that the modern world is too full of distractions and it's preventing people from seeing their liberty being taken away from them gradually. He argues that people should just be able to live their lives in peace without interference from the man. And he's going to achieve his dream by blowing up the institutions and anyone that gets in his way. He kind of reminds me of Peacemaker a little bit, a character that believes in peace so much he's willing to kill anyone to achieve it. He's a walking oxymoron. He is undoubtedly a comedy character. Note that outside of his dream of a world free of bureaucracy, the only thing he cares about is his tiny dog Boom Boom. And it's worth noting that his codename Mad Stan seems like a very clear jokey reference to DCAU writer Stan Berkowitz, who is a self-described union man. In his recent book Beyond the Bat, available now on Amazon, Stan mentions that he became an ardent union supporter after his union pension plan depreciated massively. He also noted how he spent much of his time at Warner Brothers talking politics with Alan Burnett, so this feels more like a cheeky little joke about the passionate Mr. Berkowitz. Mad Stan's physical appearance is based on the voice actor Henry Rollins, just beefed up quite a bit. Rollins is quite outspoken in his politics as well, although hardly an anarchist. Mad Stan first appeared in the Batman Beyond episode Rats. This episode was primarily about Terry's girlfriend Dana getting kidnapped by a trademark nice guy that looked like a rat and lived in the sewers, all because Terry was late for their date. And what held him up? Mad Stan. According to Bruce Wayne, Mad Stan is unstoppable when on a rant, which has usually been triggered by something he's seen on the news. He's an explosive expert and attempts to blow up the city's library archives because there's just too much information out there, and it was preventing people from seeing the truth. The only purpose that Stan served in the episode was to be a distraction for Terry that would advance the main plot. He had a similar role in his second appearance, the episode Eyewitness. The villainous Spellbinder makes the world think that Batman has murdered Mad Stan with one of his illusions. Stan had stormed an event for District Attorney Sam Young and tried to take out the man, in this case District Attorney Young, and his wife Commissioner Barbara Gordon. As you might expect, Batman intervened and chased Mad Stan into a car park, where Spellbinder was waiting. While in pursuit, Barbara was set upon by Spellbinder, who made her see Batman cave in Mad Stan's head. In reality, Batman had only knocked Stan out, and Spellbinder whisked him away and put him in one of his virtual reality simulators, where he could live out his dream life, blowing up the establishment and cackling insanely. I'd hate to be those police officers that wound up rescuing him from the addictive virtual reality. He is gonna be so mad when he realises that he's been misled. His final appearance came in the episode Countdown, and this is the closest he comes to being the primary villain of the episode. It would be quite easy to label Mad Stan as a two-dimensional character, but he does have a soft side to him. When he comes across Zeta being attacked by the NSA, he leaps to his defense, thinking that the man was trying to bring down a regular Joe. Imagine his surprise when he discovers that Zeta is an android. Stan jumps to the conclusion that he was being set up, that the NSA waited until Stan crossed their path before luring him in with a false flag attack, so that they could have this robot spy on him. It's a paranoid delusion. Stan overestimates his own importance, thinking that he's the lead character in this story when he's barely even the villain. The actual villains of this episode are the NSA, much like in the spin-off show The Zeta Project, who are relentlessly pursuing Zeta. In an attempt to get one over on the man, Stan plants a powerful explosive on Zeta and drops him off at the Department of Health. Stan wanted to blow them up as a way of protesting their planned increase in the pet license tax. Stan would then take a powerful sedative to prevent him from telling anyone where the bomb was. Cue Batman and Ro teaming up to track down Zeta to save him and help him escape from the NSA. The last we see of Mad Stan, he's chuckling to himself in his sleep as Boom Boom licks his face. He's such a secondary aspect of this story that we don't even see what happens to him after Batman and Ro leave. Mad Stan is slightly unusual in that he was one of the only recurring Batman Beyond villains to not appear in the Batman Beyond tie-in comics that were released around the same time the show was airing. He did, however, appear in a couple of issues of the much later Batman Beyond webcomic, which was notable as one of the last things legendary Batman artist Norm Breyfogle worked on before suffering a debilitating stroke. These later comics aren't in the same continuity as the show, but don't let that prevent you from enjoying them. For once, this story is entirely about Mad Stan. The earlier Hush Beyond story had unceremoniously killed Mad Stan off page, with Batman dressing up as him to lure out the new Hush, so you could understand why people were surprised to see him up and about causing mischief in Gotham. It turns out he had been visiting his mother at her government-run care home, which did not live up to his standards. Stan ends up getting into an argument with his weapons dealer after they sold all of his gear because they thought he was dead. Stan steals all of their stock, claiming it as reparation, but his dealers kidnap Boom Boom and hold him to ransom, with Batman caught in the middle. It's not a significant story by any means, but there are some amusing moments. Stan's willingness to blow himself up rather than compromise his values is a highlight for me. And of course, the story ends with a heartwarming reunion after Stan is arrested, as Boom Boom is granted twice monthly visitation rights. Mad Stan is undeniably a minor villain in the world of Batman Beyond. He's always the secondary foil of the story, and in 2 out of 3 of his appearances, he spends most of the episode either asleep or in a virtual reality world, which is ironic because he views himself as the hero of every story he's involved in. He has delusions of his own significance in the world. I don't view him as a serious criticism of anarchism. He's a comedy character. We laugh at his paranoid ranting and over-the-top reactions to even the most minor inconveniences. That's completely fine. Not every villain needs to have deep motivations. Sometimes an angry guy with a lot of bombs is more than enough. Okay, that's it for this week's essay. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, tell all your friends about me. You know how YouTube works. If you really enjoyed the video and have the means, please consider making use of the thanks button to send a buck or two my way, because every little helps. I offer channel memberships for $1.99 a month. This will get you early access to my weekly video essay, priority responses to your comments, members-only videos, custom emojis, and an icon on your profile indicating that you're one of my people. And special thanks to my current channel members, who are all listed on the screen right now. Next time I want to look at one of the creepiest episodes of Batman the Animated Series, although technically it was called The Adventures of Batman and Robin at that point, House and Garden, to look specifically at how the character of Poison Ivy is completely incapable of ever reforming. Hope to see you then.